What happens when morning TV's calmest voice meets one of pop culture's most divisive figures? A glossy interview on Good Morning America turns, question by question, into a slow-motion derailment, until dignity snaps like an overstrained mic cable. Today we revisit Lara Spencer's clash with Meghan Markle, a conversation that began in sunshine and ended in a studio storm. The set glowed with its usual warmth. Gold haze, moving cameras, applause rising as the Chiron flashed. Meghan Markle. Purpose, privacy, and power. Lara Spencer, radiant in a yellow suit, smiled with practiced ease. Good morning. Our next guest is a philanthropist, producer, and best-selling author. Meghan Markle is here. Meghan entered like a sealed envelope. Cream blouse, navy pencil skirt, diamonds flashing. She crossed one leg deliberately. Smile precise. Thanks for having me. Lara opened softly. Your advocacy around mental health has touched so many. For viewers struggling, what concrete tools have helped you most? Meghan's smile cooled. I think people expect tips and tricks, like this is lifestyle TV. Healing isn't about hacks. It's about voice, autonomy, boundaries. She lingered on the last word like a polished stone. Alignment, Lara echoed. For some, that might mean therapy or community. It might, Meghan replied smoothly. Or it might mean refusing to answer reductive questions. Her smile was pretty, pointed. A ripple passed through the room. Lara's tone stayed velvet. Let's talk purpose. You and Prince Harry have launched scholarships, veteran programs, digital well-being initiatives. Which impacts surprised you most? All of them, Meghan said, pausing as if bestowing favor. But I don't measure impact in headlines. I measure it in the energy we shift. People feel when systems evolve. Lara pressed gently. Still, is there a story you carry with you? Someone who reached out? Meghan's lashes dipped. There are many. I don't share them on cue. Privacy, remember? The cameraman's grip tightened. Lara didn't blink. Fair enough. Let's go to craft. You've moved from acting to producing. What new creative muscles are you using? That assumes acting lacked leadership, Meghan said lightly. It didn't. I've always captained my space. The difference now is, people notice. Lara flowed past the edge like a dancer avoiding a misstep. You've spoken about authorship of your narrative. Many women balancing work and motherhood find that inspiring. What does a morning look like at your home? Meghan laughed. Melodic, cool. We don't do typical. I'm not going to pretend I flip dinosaur pancakes before yoga. I have staff. I have structure. I have help because I build big things. And I'm comfortable saying that. Behind the cameras, a producer mouthed, Wow. Lara nodded unshaken. Honesty can be refreshing. There's freedom in acknowledging support systems. Precisely, Meghan said, which is why it's strange when interviewers ask for relatability, like it's a receipt. The line drifted between them, pleasant, then oddly sharp. Lara reached for her next card, though she didn't need it. Let's talk about your new series. You've teased conversations with women in high-pressure roles, athletes, scientists, founders. What question are you most excited to ask them? Lara prompted. Meghan brightened. Her first true light of the morning. I'm always fascinated by what they refused. The job they turned down, the man they didn't marry, the smallness they walked away from. She let the words glow for the audience. Saying no is a superpower. Sometimes saying no is also a privilege, Lara replied gently. Do you worry that message lands differently for viewers without a safety net? Meghan's ring caught the studio light as she folded her hands. Sometimes the limitation is mindset. People underestimate how much of their shine is imagined. The monitors showed perfection. 2 polished women, golden lighting, but between them a thin wire hummed. Imagination is powerful, Lara said warmly. Absolutely. Though viewers might also hope for empathy around constraints that aren't imagined. Rent, childcare, healthcare. Meghan's smile thinned. I'm aware of the world, she said sweetly. Are you? A soft O rippled from the risers. Lara inhaled so subtly her shoulders barely rose. Let's reframe, she said evenly. When your documentary aired, some were inspired, others confronted. If you could rewrite any moment, not to appease critics but to sharpen your intent, what would it be? Meghan tilted her head, regal, weighing mercy. I don't rewrite, I iterate. And I don't uplift critiques from people who've built nothing. Not raised, not unkind. Just higher ground claimed like real estate. Building requires feedback, Lara countered. Velvet intact. I ask because your platform is enormous. With that comes responsibility. Meghan's eyes glimmered. I'm familiar with responsibility. That's why I'm careful where I sit. A polite laugh scattered through the room. For the first time, Lara's smile faltered. Only for a breath. Then she smoothed it. I'm glad you're here. Viewers want to hear about the work. So let me ask something promised in our tease. What does accountability look like? For the institutions you've criticized and for you? Outcomes. Meghan replied quickly. Programs funded. Lives improved. Discourse elevated. And when those who profit from harm grow uncomfortable, that's a metric too. And for you personally, Lara pressed, Meghan's gaze held. I have never been more aligned. Silence pressed its palm to the glass of the control room. The stage manager hovered at the break cue like a lifeguard watching a dark swell. Lara rescued the moment with sparkle. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Meghan on creative risk, her next project, and the legacy she hopes to leave. Applause rose on command, music stitching the scene into daylight normalcy. On the wide shot, Manhattan gleamed, tasteful gold, but the close-ups told another story. Frost edging the porcelain. Not a fight, not yet, but the prelude. The charged quiet before the table tips, the coffee spills, and the day careens off script. When the cameras returned, Lara leaned forward, steady as ever. Welcome back. We're here with Meghan Markle, discussing her projects and her perspective on purpose in today's world. Meghan tucked a strand of hair, smiling without warmth. She sat like someone testifying, not conversing. Lara offered a simple question, almost a gift. You've spoken about inspiring women to step into leadership. What advice would you give to young women watching who feel overlooked? Meghan's answer was smooth, sharpened. First, I'd tell them not to wait for permission from morning shows, or anyone, to matter. If you know your worth, you don't need validation from an institution or an interviewer. A few claps scattered. The air shifted. Light applause tangled with unease. Lara kept her poise, nodding. Fair enough. But many young women watching don't have access to the same resources or platforms. How do they start, practically? Meghan tilted her head, voice soft but edged. Practically, Lara, I think practicality often becomes the excuse people use to play small. My message is stop asking how to start. Just begin. The details follow those with courage. It landed like a sermon. Polished but dripping superiority. Lara folded her hands neatly in her lap. Courage is essential, she agreed. But even the most courageous often need systems of support. Mentorship, funding, opportunity. Opportunities, Meghan repeated, her smile sharpening. Opportunities find those prepared to take them. I prepared. I claimed my space. Not everyone is willing to do that. The audience shifted, murmurs rising like a tide. Lara smoothed the air with practiced grace. Let's turn to your creative work. Your new project has been described as innovative. What risks did you take creatively that you're most proud of? Meghan exhaled a faint laugh. Risks? I don't see them as risks. At my level, innovation is the standard, not the gamble. People call it risk, because they can't imagine moving without a safety net. For me, it's just Tuesday. A beat of silence before the applause sign flashed. The clapping came, dutiful but thin. Lara's smile held, though her jaw betrayed strain. I admire that confidence, she said gently. Still, risk resonates because it reflects vulnerability. Do you think showing more vulnerability could strengthen your message? Meghan's brows lifted almost imperceptibly. I think I've been vulnerable enough for a lifetime. And honestly, the world doesn't need another woman crying on cue to prove she's human. We've evolved past that. The words sliced, cool but cutting. Gasps rippled through the audience. Lara's smile no longer touched her eyes. Well, she said softly, many viewers might feel vulnerability is what connects us most deeply. Meghan leaned forward, certainty dripping. Connection isn't built on weakness, Lara. It's built on power. If people want relatability, they can look to their neighbor. I didn't come here to be relatable. The statement hit like a stone through glass. Tension cracked across the room. Lara tilted her head slightly, calm intact. Many would argue relatability and power aren't opposites. That sometimes the strongest thing you can do is show people they're not alone. Meghan's smile thinned, blade sharp. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is remind them they don't need you. The studio froze. Whispers prickled through the crowd. Lara shuffled her cards, her tone warm again. Let's move to family life. Balancing career and family is something many women wrestle with. How do you navigate that balance? Meghan laughed lightly, dismissive. Balance is a myth. Let's stop pretending. My children know I'm building something historic, and one day they'll thank me for it. I don't need to perform domestic normalcy for anyone's comfort. A hush spread. Lara's smile softened, but her eyes cooled. Many mothers watching might feel torn hearing that. They may not have the luxury of choosing between normalcy and ambition. Meghan shrugged, elegant and dismissive. Then maybe ambition isn't for everyone. The audience gasped, this time disapproval audible. Lara's voice remained calm, firmer now. Ambition takes many forms. For some women, raising their families is ambition. It's just expressed differently. Meghan waved a manicured hand. Yes, the comforting narrative. But it's not mine. Some of us are destined for more. The words hung like smoke. Silence followed, heavy and stunned. Lara's jaw flexed, but her tone stayed level. Well, she said slowly, destiny has many definitions. We'll let the viewers decide which moments inspire them, Lara said, signaling the band. Music swelled, cutting to commercial. But the studio's air had shifted. What began as grace now brittle, each exchange a shard. Lara still wore her composure, though the spark behind her eyes hinted at its limit. When cameras returned, applause was muted, the audience attuned to the storm brewing. Lara poised, folded her hands on the desk. Meghan leaned back, brushing hair from her shoulder, the other hand draped on the armrest. Serene, smug even, as though the morning was hers. Welcome back to Good Morning America, Lara said smoothly. We're here with Meghan Markle, discussing her projects, her advocacy, and her outlook on leadership. Yes, Meghan replied softly, lips curving. Though I do wonder if people are ready for leadership in its truest form. It means listening to someone who refuses to dilute herself for approval. The words hit like a gauntlet. A murmur fluttered through the room. Lara's shoulders tightened, though her voice stayed even. That's certainly one perspective, but leadership can also mean meeting people where they are, helping them feel included. Inclusion isn't lowering yourself to the least common denominator, Meghan countered. It's pulling people upward to where you already stand. Silence fell, thick. Lara shuffled her cards, smile steady, though her throat tightened. Let's talk about your documentary. It received praise, but also criticism. Some said it felt more about image than substance. How do you respond? Meghan's smile thinned. I remind people that producing a global documentary while raising 2 children is substance enough. If critics can't see that, perhaps they've never achieved anything comparable. Gasps rippled. Lara's brow creased faintly. Many would say raising children and balancing work is an achievement in itself, regardless of scale. Of course, Meghan said smoothly. but with unmistakable condescension. But there's a difference between juggling errands and shaping global conversations. I operate on a different level. Unease spread through the crowd, whispers rising. Lara leaned in slightly, tone gentle but firmer. Some might say remarks like that risk alienating those who could otherwise be inspired by your story. Do you worry about that? Not particularly, Meghan replied, smile-iced. If someone is alienated by ambition, they were never meant to be inspired in the first place. Silence answered her. Lara inhaled, lashes lowering to hide irritation before steadying again. You've spoken often about empowering the everyday woman balancing career, family, personal growth. What's your message to her? Meghan didn't hesitate. Stop thinking of yourself as everyday. Stop glorifying struggle as noble. Elevate. Demand more. Don't settle for mediocrity. The word cracked the room. Audience members shifted, whispers louder. Lara's hands tightened on her cards. Struggle can be noble, she said carefully. Many watching now may feel dismissed. Is there room for honoring resilience as well as ambition? Meghan waved a hand, cool. Resilience is survival with branding. What matters is transformation. I'm not here to celebrate endurance. I'm here to show people how to transcend. Gasps again. A woman in the front row shook her head. Lara's lips pressed tight, then softened into a polite smile. Transformation takes many forms. Sometimes it's providing for your family. Sometimes it's leading a classroom, working 2 jobs, or simply being present for loved ones. Meghan's reply came quick, sharp. And sometimes that's just settling, the crowd reacted. Gasps, soft boos. The tension was no longer subtle. It pressed against every wall. Lara blinked slowly, her poise faltering, eyes narrowing by a fraction. You know, Meghan, she said, voice even but edged. It's important to recognize that many watching right now are working incredibly hard under circumstances very different from yours. They don't all have staff, resources, or platforms. Meghan crossed her legs, her diamond ring catching the light. And maybe that's why they're tuning in, to learn from someone who's transcended those limitations. The arrogance was palpable. The murmurs grew louder. Lara inhaled, patience fraying. Her tone stayed calm, but steel lined the words. Or maybe they're tuning in for empathy, not condescension. Maybe they want connection more than instruction. Meghan's smile didn't waver. Empathy has its place, but leadership requires authority. And sometimes authority doesn't sound like comfort. It sounds like truth. The audience split. Some clapped, most sat uneasy. Lara's knuckles whitened where her hands clasped. Truth, she said, voice measured, can heal or harm, depending on how it's delivered. Meghan leaned forward, eyes glinting. Then maybe people need to stop being so fragile. The air snapped like a taut wire. Gasps rang out in unison. Lara's eyes widened, then narrowed, fury flashing beneath restraint. Fragile? She echoed, low and cutting. You've just called ordinary people fragile, for wanting kindness. Yes, Meghan said without blinking. If they want kindness, they should find it at home. Out here it's about strength. The words fell heavy, jagged. The audience buzzed. Shock, indignation, even boos. Lara's lips curved into a thin, unfamiliar smile. Her eyes hard now. The poised host had reached her limit. Silence blanketed the room. Meghan sat with chin lifted, eyes glittering in defiance. Lara folded her hands so tightly the knuckles blanched. Fragile. Lara repeated each syllable deliberate. That's what you think ordinary people are, for wanting compassion. Meghan smirked faintly. Yes, the world rewards strength, Lara. That's why I'm sitting here, and they're sitting out there. She flicked her wrist toward the audience, dismissive. The reaction was instant. Gasps, murmurs, scattered boos. The studio had turned. Lara leaned forward, her voice calm but ironclad. You know, Meghan, I've sat across from world leaders, survivors, mothers working 3 jobs. People who've endured things you couldn't imagine. Not one dismissed empathy as weakness. Meghan waved a hand, careless. Then perhaps they needed empathy more than I do. I've evolved past it. The arrogance snapped the last thread of Lara's composure. Her eyes narrowed, voice sharpening like glass. Evolved past it? Meghan, you sit here acting like the world owes you reverence because you married into a title. But titles don't build character. Work does. Respect does. And your answers this morning have shown none of it. Applause erupted, the audience's frustration breaking loose. Meghan's smile faltered, her eyes darting toward the crowd. I don't think you understand. No. Lara cut in, voice rising for the first time. I understand perfectly. You've come here acting like a spoiled child, dismissing every question as beneath you. You've looked down on ordinary people as if their lives are insignificant next to yours. And you've made it painfully clear the only thing you value is the echo of your own voice. Meghan's face flushed crimson. She shifted, composure cracking. That's not fair. It's more than fair. Lara snapped, her patience finally gone. Because this show isn't about stroking egos, Lara said, her voice cutting clear through the air. It's about connecting with people. And what you've done is insult them. Our viewers, our audience, and frankly, every woman who's worked hard without leaning on a husband's title to stay relevant. The studio gasped, then burst into applause, louder, sharper, fueled by vindication. Meghan's eyes widened, tears shimmering. How dare you? She whispered, voice trembling. I've sacrificed. Sacrifice? Lara leaned forward, steel in her tone. Sacrifice is the mother skipping meals so her kids can eat. Sacrifice is the nurse pulling double shifts. Sacrifice is the teacher buying supplies out of her own paycheck. Sacrifice is not walking away from a palace with Netflix deals and crying about privacy. Don't you dare call that sacrifice. The audience rose to its feet, clapping and cheering, the noise swelling like a wave. Meghan's tears broke free, streaking her carefully set makeup. She fumbled with her microphone, her voice cracking. I don't have to sit here and be attacked like this. She choked, standing abruptly. No, you don't. Lara answered, her tone sharp but steady. Because this interview is over. Meghan, you are excused. The words landed like a gavel. Security moved subtly forward. But Meghan was already storming off, clutching her notes, wiping her face, heels striking against the floor in staccato echoes. The cameras captured every step. Her retreating figure, the stunned audience. Lara Spencer still seated tall and unflinching. When the doors closed behind Meghan, Lara turned back to the camera, her voice calm, resolute. Here on Good Morning America, we believe in respect. Respect for our viewers, our audience, and every story we share. And when that respect is broken, we stand with the people who tune in each morning, not with entitlement. Thunderous applause shook the set as the band struck up the transition to commercial. The energy buzzed, electric, undeniable. What began polished and polite had ended in chaos. Meghan Markle leaving in tears, Lara Spencer standing firm, and daytime television cemented with one of its most unforgettable showdowns. What do you think of this clash? Was Lara right to finally call her out? Or did it go too far? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next unbelievable showdown.